Welcome back to Bay Area Focus. From entertainment to sports, please welcome a consultant for the Kaiser Permanente Napa Valley Marathon and presenter in the Marathon College, Dr. Ishwar Kapur. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so marathons, very popular in the Bay Area. Of course, the Napa Valley Marathon, it takes place every year, the first Sunday in March. You're speaking at the marathon.
That's right. So the Kaiser Permanente Napa Valley Marathon is in the first weekend of March. This is the 9th year that we'll be sponsoring the event. We have a team of doctors, physical therapists, and nurses that will be on hand during the race at first aid stations and also at the end of the race for any runners that need any medical support.
Right, because marathons, they're brutal on your body, right?
Yes, they can be, actually. It always requires a really careful approach. Typically, if you do it right, training for a marathon takes about 4 to 6 months.
Okay, so even if you've never run a marathon before, you need to start training 4 to 6 months ahead of time, or a year or two?
You know, actually, it's a great question. It's a great point. There are online programs, and a lot of coaches can put together a program for beginners to get you running a marathon in about 4 to 6 months. However, I think based on my experience as a runner and also as a physician, I think the best way to actually get ready for a marathon, if you really have it as a goal and you're just a beginner, is to actually take a few months to get acclimated to the process of running, get on a consistent schedule, and then start to sort of ramp up your training over time and see how your body responds. And then after about a year or so, if you really feel like your body can handle it and you're really enjoying it, then you set that second year as a goal for running a marathon.
Sure, yeah, because you never walk up to a marathon and say, yeah, I'm going to do this.
That's right. It really takes a lot of commitment, dedication, and effort, and you want it to be a good, healthy experience, and you don't want to have any injuries from it.
Okay, well, you always give great tips to runners. Discuss generally what people do in the last week before the race.
So the last week before the race is definitely not the time to cram in a lot of miles before the race day. It's a time where you're getting your body prepared for the race. So all the training that you've done, you start to taper down your mileage. And it's also a really great time to actually boost up your nutrition. So you really need a lot of energy by the time you step on the starting line at the race. Does
that mean a lot of carbs?
A lot of complex carbs in the way of whole grains on a daily basis leading up to the marathon, especially the 2 nights beforehand. It also helps a lot to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, a foundation for your diet, because that's going to actually give you good recovery and get your muscles tuned up for the race.
Why do you taper down on your mileage?
Well, actually, marathon training is pretty rigorous, and so you want your muscles to be tuned up and ready to go. And once you've been training for several months, your body gets ready. It's just your muscles are tired. And so that 1 to 2 weeks of tapering down actually gives your muscles a chance to really regroup and get ready for that long race.
So the day before the marathon, that's a very important day.
Absolutely. I'd say the 1 to 2 days before the marathon are very important to get plenty of rest. The night before, you want to make sure and relax and have your plan to get to the starting line on time and things like that. And you also want to get a good meal. And it's very important those last 2 days because that actually can make a big difference for the race.
And you should probably spend the day off of your feet?
Yes, actually as much as possible. Spend the day off of your feet. I always give advice to people that are going to be running a marathon, especially if they haven't run many races before, is you want to make that day and the race day very familiar to you. So you don't want to try too many things. Eat foods that are familiar to you. Make sure that when you actually prepare for the race, the clothes that you wear are clothes that you've already worn before. You don't want to put on a new pair of shoes. Shoes that are broken in are actually best because then you avoid the simple problems that add up to that can get really magnified in a race, like blisters and chafing and things like that.
Blisters in your toenails?
Yeah, all sorts of things like that can happen. It's unfortunate because you spend all that time training and then you have a small problem like that.
Whew, yes, okay. So the morning of the marathon, what do you do?
The morning of the marathon, I always tell people to wake up early, at least 4 hours before the marathon, so you get your body nice and loosened up. Make sure that you eat a good breakfast, actually something, again, that you're familiar with. It's always a good idea to just to tune up on your fluids as well. So get some fluids, just enough that you'll be ready for the race.
And knowing what the weather is going to be like is important.
Yeah, fortunately for the Bay Area, especially for a race like the Napa Valley Marathon, we're in a good climate. So weather is not as much of a factor, but yeah, you should always know your forecast ahead of time.
And what is the best marathon weather?
I think upper 40s, lower 50-degree weather that's relatively dry, no wind, is probably ideal.
And you definitely want to know your route.
Yes, and fortunately for races that are well run, the routes are really clear.
Okay, so you're in the race.
Yes.
And a lot of it is physical, but a lot of it is mental as well.
Yeah, so the advice that I give runners also for that marathon day, there's a lot of energy at the starting line. And so every time someone comes up to the line and has a plan, as soon as the gun goes off and people are out running, it can be chaos. And so we always encourage people to sort of stick to their plan, take it easy, maybe give it 2 to 3 miles to get warmed up so they don't get overwhelmed by the whole race experience. And so for someone who's been training a lot, actually the first half of the marathon can go very, very smoothly.
Sure.
And then after that, it becomes a little bit of a challenge.
And you have to be honest with yourself and knowing what your limits are, right?
That's true. And hopefully you've done that before you step on the line.
Okay, listen to your body. All right, Dr. Kapur, thanks so much for coming on, telling us about all of the tips. And for more information about the Napa Valley Marathon, just log on to napavalley.marathon.org and click on Marathon College. That's napavalley.marathon.org and click on Marathon College. That's it for this week. We'll be back with more Bay Area Focus next week. Have a great day.